Hi, my name is Dean Brown. I want to talk about a prototype that I'm working on called Warfighter the Modern Attack Submarine Combat Card Game. It's inspired by the DVG Warfighter series games, which in those cases are infantry based, and you select your soldiers and you travel through a set of locations to get to the mission area and then execute the mission. In this case, you have a single SSN attack submarine that is loaded out with weapons and sensors. It can have some defensive capabilities, and it can take on damage. And you need to navigate your SSN through these various locations. Again, each one having special conditions until you get to the final location, and then you draw the counters for the objective and complete the mission. This is set in Cold War Soviet era, so basically late 80s, early 90s. So the types of units that you're going to be encountering, in this case the Soviet units, are reflective of that time period. So example, Utilov, Kilos, Foxtrots, Victors. So those are the types of units that as you traverse through the locations and you have various encounters, you're going to set that up on your tactical display, and then using actions and action cards that are drawn every turn, you then have 5 turns to go through and deal with the enemies that are set up on your tactical display. So some of the actions that you can use, you have 4 actions as your turn, is you can advance, retreat, adjust your depths, use active sonar, load torpedo tubes, perform an attack, do a harpoon missile attack against surface ships, deploy or retract your towed array. So you might want to retract it in locations where it can be damaged. Play action cards, fire a Tomahawk missile for land objectives, deploy mines. You can attempt to evade incoming torpedoes, and you can deploy various defenses that you have that you can add to your submarine. The enemy units, for the surface units, they have a type of unit. They also have passive and active sonar. So passive sonar, range 1 on a 7 or higher, they would detect the SSN. For active sonar here, range 0 on 5 or higher. But they have a noise value, a torpedo defense value. Ships have a missile defense value, and then a damage value, which reflects how many hits they can take before they are sunk. So similar to Warfighter and defeating cover, whenever you try to detect a ship, you roll a value for the sensor, and then you roll a value for the noise value, or the noise value of the enemy. So you have various sensors that you can use: your towed array, your surface receiver, spherical array, active sonar. So in order to detect the ship, you have to not only meet your sonar objective, but also defeat the noise value. So in this case, a 2 or higher. For submarine detection, basically it's the same concept. You use your sensor that you're using to detect, and again, you have to be able to roll higher than the noise value in order to detect it. If you're doing torpedo attacks against a particular submarine, in this case, you see here that the Kilo has a noise value of 5, which makes it much harder to detect. But then when you roll your torpedo attack, again, you're rolling for the torpedo value, and you're rolling for the torpedo defense value. So you have to successfully hit with your torpedo and also overcome the torpedo defense value for that particular submarine. So submarines harder to detect, especially the diesel subs. Other submarines are harder to hit because their torpedo defense is higher, and then other submarines can also have a higher taking them. This one would require 2 hit damages to destroy it versus 1 for the diesel subs. Also, certain units that have a star next to it, and you can see these two don't. This one does. So if you end the engagement and these units are still not destroyed, then for each starred unit you would reduce your timer by 1, meaning that you have to figure out how to get around this particular threat that's still lingering in the location. Also, for submarines, they have tactics. Some of them, and they might be experienced or inexperienced. So you would roll a die. In this case, it would be an experienced value. So you would draw a tactic. In this case, inexperienced. We put it on the experienced side. So it's an aggressive tactic, and it fires 2 torpedoes per attack. For your SSN, as I mentioned, you have actions and action cards. You can also select from various captains, and they have very different profiles. So intel profiles, defensive profiles, logistics profiles, and attack profiles, and different. The attack captain gets a couple of 2 different tactics that they can use for each engagement. Defensive players also can also get defensive tactics. They can be used to help defend your submarine. In some cases, they have the red letters at the bottom. You can use them also to cancel out corresponding tactics that the enemy subs have. So if an enemy sub had a sonar defense tactic, you can deploy your tactic to remove that tactic from that particular enemy submarine. And then your captains can have various skill levels, and they increase as you get more experience points. So trained, average, veteran, skilled, and then veteran. So in this case, stealth points, those are points that you can use to activate some of your action cards. So you can use, if you were, for example, McCafferty is skilled, you can use 2 of your stealth points instead of discarding 2 of your action cards to play an action card. That's the gist of the game. So you can earn VPs and experience points as you play, and then there's also have a campaign game where you can select the size of your campaigns, 3 missions, 6 missions, or 9 missions, with the goal being, if your mission is successful, you advance along your campaign track, and if you fail your mission, then you would reduce the value on your campaign track. Also, as campaigns, you get resources that you can use to purchase defensive capabilities, additional weapons, and so forth. And you can track those here. So for those of you interested in seeing how a tactical battle would play out, I'm going to just quickly go through a couple of turns. So start off, no subs are detected, and no enemy subs or ships have detected your SSN. You can see here that your LA improved class submarine, which I'm using here, has a noise value of 5, which means it's fairly hard to detect. So you have to meet the sensor value and the noise value. But as you perform various actions, for example, if you're firing harpoon missiles or you're firing torpedoes, you can see that your noise value is going to be decreased. So instead of having a noise value of 5 here, we would have a noise value of 3. Also, if you're at periscope depth, your noise value decreases by 1. And if the enemy submarines enter in at range 1, your noise value is reduced as well as its, or at range 0, the -2 noise value. So one of the things that you have to keep in mind when you're performing actions is how does that affect the noise value of your SSN, because you want to try to keep your noise value low so that reduces the chance of being detected by the enemy submarines or ships. And if they do detect you, then they immediately begin firing torpedoes, which you have to defend against. So we're going to start off, we're going to try to detect our kilo here with our towed array. So we detect it with a sensor roll of 5, and you can see here that we got lucked out and we were able to detect the SSN. So because we have detected it at we're going to put a +1, detect +1 marker here, and you can see that that reduces the noise level for the next detection by 1 and also reduces the torpedo defense. If the next turn we don't detect the SSN, the detect value drops to 0, and then if we don't detect it on the following turn, then that submarine would remain undetected and therefore we cannot attack it. Same with the Foxtrot. I'm getting some good rolls here, 9. Because our towed array has a sensor value of 5 and 8, and we rolled a 9, in this case we get to detect it at a +2 level, which means this noise value now is 3. And we're going to try to attempt to detect the Victor, which is below the thermal layer. We are in a deep sea state here, thermal layer, so you would roll 2 dice for the sensor detect, and we rolled a 1 for the noise value, so we did not detect the Victor, which is a very dangerous adversary. Utilov, we detected that at +2. And then the cargo ship, if we wanted to detect that, we detected that at +2 as well. Okay, well, got very lucky on our detection rolls this turn, so we were able to detect the 2 diesel subs. Victor's still lurking out there. We're still currently above the thermal layer. So that's why it's going to be harder to detect, but it's also going to be harder for it to detect us. And we were able to detect the destroyer and the cargo ship. Now, because we are traversing through a location, we may choose to ignore our diesel subs because we do get victory points for them, but they're not part of the end mission, and we may utilize resources here that we want to save for our mission. The Victor is a starred submarine, so we definitely wanted to destroy that if possible to prevent a time loss. And the same with our Utili destroyer, that one starred as well. So these are the two that we really want to destroy for this particular turn. But since we have detected these two diesel subs, why don't we go ahead and take our actions. So I have my 4 action turns. I did draw 4 action cards. So for every damage unit, you get one less action card. Let's assume that we're using Intel profile. Anderson's trained, so I can't ignore 1 key enemy per my entire mission. So for my cards, I have a prepared torpedo fire, which uses a torpedo defense roll of 6. I can do a torpedo attack where I add 1 or 2 if I have XPs to spare to my attack. I can reduce detection levels of all hostile SSNs, and I can reduce my noise value by 1. A lot of these require the discard. All 4 of these actually have stealth value, so you have to discard cards in order to meet the stealth value. So if I wanted to use my prepared torpedo fire card, I would have to discard 2 of my action cards, which I'm going to do. And I cannot use this. So I'm going to do an attack on one diesel sub. So my defense value is 6, so I didn't have that to worry about, but I only rolled a 1 and I needed a 4 or higher to hit and destroy the kilo, which I did not do, so that was a miss. So I used 1 action. I still have 3 actions left. Going to fire a torpedo at the Foxtrot. So I rolled a 10 and a 3. So in this case, I did hit with my torpedo, and if it was able to take 2 damage points, I would have scored 2 hits on it. And torpedo defense was 1 in this case, since it was detect level 2, so that was destroyed. So I destroyed our Foxtrot submarine. And I did fire torpedoes, so in this case my noise value has been reduced to 4. The Utili is at range 5, so I can't fire at that particular ship with my torpedoes, and it is still out of range of my harpoon, so I'm not going to attack that, and I can't detect the Victor because hasn't been detected. So I use 2 actions. I can use 1 more action to reload my torpedo tubes. So now I have 3 torpedoes and a harpoon. And then I'm going to okay, let's go down. Use my last action to go below the thermal layer. Alright, so my actions are done. I then want to run through the enemy battle turn, which we would remove any noise counters that they have, which they don't have any. And then we want to roll on the enemy movement chart. So I rolled a 9. So here, surface ships, range decreases by 1, diesel subs range decreased by 1, and SSN's range decreased by 1. And all three of them are pinging. So that means they're using their active radar, active sonar, sorry. So active sonar doesn't have quite the range that a passive sonar has. This one has a range of 1 value, so it can't, and we're at range 2. This one has a range 2 value, and it's at range 3, and this has a range 0 value, and it's at range 4. So none of the enemy can detect me, but the good news is that because they are pinging, using their active sonar, that their noise value is decreased by 2 in this case. So no detections. Going to decrease my battle turn by 1 and reset my counters and remove my torpedo fired noise value here. I have 1 action card, so I'm going to draw 2, 3 more action cards. So location cards if I wanted to substitute the next location, which I don't. I do have an event where I cannot perform any torpedo attacks this turn, which is not good. And then if there was any detection counters, I could remove those. So no attacks this turn. I do get to still attempt to detect. So for the kilo, oops, that wasn't 8. Roll 2 dice because it's above the thermal layer and choose the lowest. So I did still detect it. So that went up to detect +2. Now the Victor, because I'm below the thermal layer, roll a 3 and a 1. So I still, even though it has it met the noise value, but I did not meet my towed array value, so that still remains undetected. And for the Utilov, 3, 4, 8. So because I rolled 2 dice, I did not detect it with my sensor. So the detect value went down. Oops. Down to 1. And I'm just going to ignore that one for now. So I can't fire this turn. Is there anything else I want to do? No, probably not. So I'm going to discard 3 action cards. And now roll to see movement chart. A 10. So -1, -1, -2. They're all pinging still. This is not good news for me. So I am inside the detection range for the Victor. And the Diesel. So I have to hope that they do not roll for my noise value. 4, 5. Oh, I am detected. Oops, wait, I have to roll 2 dice for that. 1, 4, 5. Okay, so I'm not detected. Roll 2 dice because it's above the thermal layer. Now the Victor, oh boy. 6 and 7. So it did detect my SSN. And because it's aggressive, it's going to be firing 2 torpedoes. And let's see, where's the torpedo counter? Here we go. So it's going to be firing 2 torpedoes. My torpedo defense value is now at 3, and it hits on a 5 or 9. So I met my torpedo defense value, but not the torpedo. Didn't hit with a torpedo. And a 5 and a 1. So it's below my torpedo defense value, but it met the torpedo value. So again, so that's a miss. So luckily I had 2 misses. So the torpedo was fired and it pinged, and did have it detect a +1. And that would be the end of that turn. So that's basically how you would play the tactical display. So it would reduce the turn counter to 3. Draw more action cards, again resolve the action. Obviously the victor's a very strong threat. It's detected me. And the diesel sub is likely to move closer, so and so that could become a threat as well. So I have 3 more turns to destroy the victor and the Udaloy. All right, that's very quickly how the tactical system works. One thing I forgot to do is there is a helicopter that could be attempting to detect me, KA-27. So what I didn't do at the end of each turn was roll to see if the helicopter was within range of me. So if it was at range 3 in this case, I'd have to roll a 9 or 10 for it to be in my area, and then roll an 8 or higher for it to detect me. And then if it detects me, then it would drop a torpedo onto my detected SSN. So that's another potential threat that you have to deal with for the surface forces. And if I do fire harpoon, which has a longer range and a better hit value, so I can use my harpoons to take out the surface ships, but at the same time it also increases the helo value, adds 3 to my helo roll. So in this case at range 3, it would be able to detect me on a 6 or higher. So there is some risk for using harpoons against surface ships, so you just need to make sure that you fire enough harpoons that you're fairly confident that you're going to be able to destroy that ship. Okay, that's all I have. If you have any questions or feedback, you can send me an email at deanbrown@comcast.net or post comments onto the site. I'm interested in hearing thoughts about whether this is a game that you would be interested in. Thank you.